I'd like to preface this video by saying first and foremost that I was provided a copy of this game by Colopl? Colopl? I'm just now realizing I've never had to say this company's name out loud before. But this is a sponsored video. That said, everything I have to say from here on out is purely my own opinion and was not influenced by them in any way. If I may quote myself from a recent video, generative AI is stupid. However, as someone who has earned at least a couple of McDonald's combo meals worth of dollars from discussing Kazuma Kaneko's demon designs on YouTube over the past decade, when the publisher of his latest title, Tsukuyomi, or to use its full title, Kazuma Kaneko's Tsukuyomi, reached out to me to tell me how smart and wonderful and great at sex I am, I decided to take them up on their offer for a free copy of the game on Switch, which launched on April 23rd, 2026, play through a bit of it, and give my honest opinions. I feel like I've made it pretty clear that I don't like generative AI. I used to use it for work, was fired so my former company could use more of it, and like most Megaton fans, I was part of that giant collective disappointed sigh when Kaneko announced how big of a role it would play in his new title. It does suck to see an artist you admire so much, who had and does still have a lot of talent for demon design, lean this way. I'm stressing this because I just want to say, I get it. If the fact that this game uses Gen AI at all is a 100% deal breaker for you, I understand. I myself, a big fan of Kaneko's work, wouldn't have bought and played the Switch version at all if they hadn't sent me a code for it, especially since I actually did play a bit of the free mobile version last year before it was shut down. I was not impressed. However, I am going to say some positive things about this game today, and I want to emphasize that they all come with an implied, but I wish the game didn't use Gen AI attached to it. Any praise or compliments I give Tsukuyomi are not done so with a sense of forgiveness of this glaring blemish, or me saying that they're more than worth ignoring that fact for it. One positive that I actually do want to say off the bat is this. We live in a world where new IPs from former big names in Megami Tensei is basically its own genre. And I like that Kaneko didn't just give us another game of Japanese high schoolers in high school like so many of the others did. Heck, Kazunari Suzuki did it twice. Be honest with me, did any of you play this? Just know that if you said yes, I don't believe you. In Tsukuyomi, we play as the 4 members of the Tsukuyomi organization, aka not the Kuzunohas, who work for the NCO, and I have already forgotten what that stands for. This guy here is not Raido, he is a Yoi. Oh, wait, sorry, I read that wrong. He's Izayoi Tsukuyomi, and he teams up with his spunky sidekick, the protagonist from that Normal Boots dating sim game, to investigate the Hoshina, a large tower where, like, stuff is happening, and there are demons. But they're not demons, they're Jinma. But they're basically just Megaton demons. In fact, a lot of them are the same mythological figures that you're already familiar with if you're a Megaton fan, like Fionn McCool, Inugami, and Byakko. Aside from Izayoi, there's also Shingetsu Tsukuyomi, Hangetsu Tsukuyomi, who is absolutely the best one by nature of her solid design and mommy energy, and before you accuse me of projecting that onto the character, I just want to point out that even her bio on the game's website basically confirms that, okay? She's mommy. And lastly, there's Mangetsu Tsukuyomi. While Hangetsu is my favorite, it is a little strange to me that this game has 2 prominent female characters with pink hair that wear green. I know what you're all thinking, and I'm not gonna do it. The primary gameplay loop has you
It's weird that it happened twice, right?
exploring miniature dungeons consisting of multiple floors. Your character moves automatically, but you do get to pick which hallway they go down at forks, and you have some say over if you want to avoid certain battles, stop by the shop, or see one of the game's random events. I've heard a lot of people say online that the style of the events is very reminiscent of Slay the Spire, but I've never played that game, so I don't feel like I can safely make the comparison. When you get roped into an event, you choose one of 2 possible outcomes, and the game will usually tell you what will happen, like you'll have to fight something, you might lose some HP, or gain money, which is called mana in this game. I'm not sure how many unique events this game actually has, but I am going to take a stab in the dark and simply say, not enough, because in my first 2 runs, I was already getting repeats. The further you progress into the game, the more characters you unlock, and you even gain the opportunity to choose branching story paths and see different character plotlines, which is pretty cool. Clearing a floor or just dying gets the Tsukuyomi you're playing as some experience, which grants extra boosts, like upgrading one of your permanent cards, or granting better random passive buffs in the form of these, like, stuffed animal cat cell phone charm things that you can collect. I do like that each character has a distinct deck with different strategies. Izuyoi seems pretty well-rounded, while Shingetsu focuses on weaker combo attacks and healing options, while Hangetsu starts with way less health, but if you play your cards right, you can boost your max HP. The battle system is pretty simple. It's a deck builder, and most Jinma have an attack and or defensive stat. You can spend from your Odo, or energy pool, on your turn to attack your enemy, or use whatever ability your card has. But you can also see if an enemy is going to attack one of your card slots and get a Jinma in place to block it with their defensive stat. Basically, you want to hit them while making sure that you have defensive options in place for when it's their turn to attack. It's honestly fine. There is a nice level of satisfaction to using a high attack power demon to kill one of the attacking foes, and then drawing a defensive card that can fully block the only remaining incoming attack, and there are enough passive abilities to keep things interesting. Like how if you use Maka, who has pretty good defense, she'll duplicate a card in your hand at the cost of getting sealed for the rest of the fight. But that's worth doing when you have a card in your hand with better defenses than her or some other useful ability. But then some are just kinda dumb, like if you have Gashadokuro in your hand at the end of your turn, you just take damage. And more than once I'd use a card in my hand to deplete my Odo and have Gashadokuro be the card I drew, and now there's nothing I can do except end my turn and I just have to take that damage. Yeah, I know that's the risk you take for putting that card in your deck, but I still think it's dumb. As far as I know, most of the base cards and enemies are actually drawn and designed by Kaneko, but I can't say with full confidence which ones were or weren't. Although, some of the human designs kinda baffle me. Like I said, I really enjoyed Hangetsu, and I kinda like Ban here, the sassy nerd cop you team up with, but then I see like Tomi and Ashiya and... Correct me if I'm wrong, I do not remember Kaneko being this into Nex. And while we're on the subject of designs, we do have to talk about the obviously Gen AI ones. See, after you perform so many actions in the dungeon, you get called upon by Okami, this giant eyeball gate thing, and he's all like, "Alright, let's see what you did." And he talks way too much, and then he's like, "Okay, yeah, have a card." And then you get one of the AI designs, and it sucks because these cards usually are way better than the ones you get from fights or the shop, so you are likely gonna want to add them to your deck if you plan on actually making any progress. I will say this though, while these cards are obviously AI generated, it does seem like they're not actively generated, if that makes sense. Like in the mobile version, Okami was just like, "I bestow upon you this card," and you got a super ugly AI card. But in the Switch port, he's like, "I grant you this figure." And then you choose one of 3 answers to a question that seems to influence which design you get. Like with Persephone, I was like, yeah, give me that long skirt. And so my card has the long skirt. And I'm wondering if other players who get Persephone and pick the same option would get the exact same card that I did, you know? Like, if they just only put in specific versions of the AI cards into the Switch version to match these specific answers and not resemble Elsa from Frozen. On that subject, it does seem like the dialogue and text may have also been AI generated, or at least like Google translated in a way that wasn't fully proofread. Some of the dialogue feels a little stilted in places, and when Okami gave me the card for Michael, he started talking about Mikhail. You know, just stuff like that is what I noticed. Overall, the use of generative AI makes this a very difficult game to hype up, and it's not like the AI really adds anything to it. On paper, the idea of a Megami Tensei-esque deck-battling roguelite or roguelike or whatever, with monster and character designs from the Kazuma Kaneko, is a perfectly solid idea that really didn't need any obnoxious tech gimmicks. If this Switch version of the game had the devs and publishers being like, "Alright, look, we removed all the ugly, confusing AI designs and the game was fully made with human effort," it'd be way easier to recommend. But even if that was the case, and I was here recommending it, I wouldn't be doing so on the grounds of it being like a hidden gem, Game of the Year contender, must-play experience or anything. I'd be like, yeah, it's fine to play for a little bit, go through a few rounds, maybe stick around just to see the next Jinma design. Because ultimately, that's what this game is. It's just fine, and the only major selling point is Kaneko's involvement, which is probably why they slapped his name and face on it. And the main thing holding it back is the general consensus that generative AI is stupid. If you actively support the AI stuff or just don't care about it, then sure, you may get a little enjoyment out of this title. I can't say I completely hated it. If you're vehemently anti-AI, I can't say anything this game has to offer is really worth going against those principles, especially not for the $25 they're asking for it or the $8 DLC. Though I will say, this paid console version at least seems to be a better put together, more polished experience than the live service mobile game they initially tried to peddle it as. Overall, I give Kazuma Kaneko's Tsukuyomi for the Nintendo Switch a Hangetsu Tsukuyomi out of Ulala Serizawa. So, bye, I guess. Thanks again to the publisher for the copy. Oh, yeah, and one last thing, obligatory, featuring Dante from the Devil May Cry series, because that's a thing that exists in this game. They didn't use AI art for it, or have Kaneko draw the characters though, they just used static renders, which... okay.